Alright, let's dive into something that's been bubbling under the surface of the SEO world. And honestly, it's way more fascinating than it sounds at first. Here's the deal. Google's been quietly reshaping how news appears in search results, and it's not just about AI overviews, it's about trust, control, and the future of how we consume information. Personally, I think this is one of those shifts that's easy to overlook but could fundamentally change the game for publishers and brands. So let's break it down. First off, the hook. Did you know that Google started folding entire top stories carousels inside its AI overviews? Yeah, it's not just a sidebar anymore. It's baked right into the AI-generated answers. John Shehata, CEO of NewzDash, spotted this back in July, and it's a big deal. Here's why: publishers who think blocking Google's AI with a robots.txt directive is enough? They're missing the point. That move doesn't stop this integration. What makes this really interesting is that it's not just a technical change, it's a strategic one. Google's essentially saying, we're going to keep news front and center but on our terms. Now let's zoom out for a second. This isn't the first time Google's done something like this. Back in 2006, they started blending news into regular search results, and by 2007, they'd fully integrated verticals like video, images, and books into a single results page. Fast forward to today, and they're doing it again, but this time with AI. In my opinion, this is Google's way of saying, we're not just organizing information, we're redefining how it's delivered. But here's the kicker. This time, it's not just about convenience. It's about trust. See, the problem with AI overviews isn't just that they're replacing clicks to publishers. It's that users don't always know if the information is coming from a credible source. By embedding top stories directly into the AI overview, Google's trying to bridge that gap. Personally, I think this is a smart move. It's like they're saying, here's the AI-generated answer, but also here's where it's coming from. But, and this is a big but, it's not a perfect solution. Google's still not fully transparent about how this works, and that ambiguity, it's a trust killer. Now, let's talk about the mechanics because this is where it gets tricky. Most publishers think blocking Google Extended is enough to opt out of AI overviews. Wrong. That directive only affects AI training and grounding. It doesn't touch search visibility. The real control? It's in Google's Search Console, where publishers can specifically exclude their content from AI overviews. But here's the catch. If you do that, you might lose your spot in the embedded top stories carousel. One thing that immediately stands out is how confusing this is for publishers. They're essentially being forced to choose between visibility and control, and Google's not making it easy. From my perspective, the bigger story here isn't the technical details, it's the power dynamics. Google's always been the gatekeeper of the internet, but with AI overviews, they're becoming the editor too. And that raises a deeper question. Who gets to decide what's credible? What many people don't realize is that by embedding top stories, Google's not just prioritizing news, they're shaping the narrative. It's a subtle but powerful shift. So, what should publishers do? Here's my take. First, stop treating Google Extended and Search Console exclusions as interchangeable. They're not. Audit your settings and understand what each one does. Second, if you have access to the Search Console exclusion, test it on a small scale before going all in. And third, start tracking your performance in both top stories and AI overviews. You can't make an informed decision without data. A detail I find fascinating is how this mirrors the vertical creep of the early 2000s. Back then, publishers had to adapt to blended search results. Now they're dealing with generated answers. The mechanisms changed, but the challenge is the same. Stay visible without losing control. What this really suggests is that we're at another inflection point in how information is distributed. Google's not just aggregating content. They're curating it, synthesizing it, and repackaging it. And while embedding top stories is a step toward rebuilding trust, it's not enough. Google needs to be more transparent about how this works, because right now, publishers are flying blind. In my opinion, that's the real story here. Not the mechanics, but the trust gap. So here's my closing thought. As we move further into the AI-driven era of search, the question isn't just how publishers can adapt. It's how they can maintain their independence in a system that's increasingly controlled by algorithms. Google's embedding of top stories is a band-aid, not a solution. And until they address the underlying issues of transparency and trust, publishers will always be one step behind. What do you think? Is this a step in the right direction, or just another way for Google to tighten its grip? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your take.